Hello, hello. It is, well, I am Jules of Thought, and it is January 24th, 2022. Okay, hey, MJ, you are first. You won today. Very good. 1 minute. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that my little bird stays quiet. Oh, Lord, she's already starting. Hey, love my Charlie Fate. How are you? Hey, Texas Lassie, welcome. Hi, Honey K. Hey, Elizabeth Grossman. Rhonda Grace, exploring. Hello, Diane H. and Scott, Southwest by West. Welcome. Hey, critters, welcome. Well, look, got all kinds of drama in the true crime world. And I guess I could start with the drama of Summer Wells. Yes, we have some news coming out of Hawkins County, Tennessee. Apparently, on January the 19th, which would have been last Wednesday, Candus made a 911 call, and she filed a police report against Don, that he pushed her, he grabbed her around the throat, and he held her, like put her up on a wall and held her there. So like she was choking. This was, well, I guess I can go ahead and share this. Wait a minute, where'd it go? There it is. Okay, let me just share this. Now, remember when I show this, remember that Candus and Dawn had just been through an incredibly stressful week. What do I mean by an incredibly stressful week? Well, I'm talking about the fact that you had those people, what's it, heels in the air or boots on the ground or something like that. You had this group of people, a handful of people, 4 people, I think, that went to Tennessee and spent, I'm not sure exactly how many days they were there because I really didn't watch, because what I saw the first day, I felt like this has no rhyme or reason. I don't see how this is going to do any good is going to come out of this. It looks like things could come from a bad position with the way it was happening. And so I really didn't watch it. But what we all saw were the clips, the clip channels that showed basically what was one of those people going up onto the private property, banging on a garage door, screaming at Don and Candus, threatening Candus, threatening Don. The police came, and it was just, it was just a disaster, right? So, you gotta think about this, y'all. They got Don fired from his job, right? They got him fired from his job. Candus is someone, admittedly, that already has a serious drinking problem and possibly other things. And so when you put that kind of pressure on people, they've lost, their daughter goes missing, all their kids are removed from their home by CPS. Now they've lost their job. They've kind of been made the laughing stock of the world in a public manner, right? I mean, look, I've been really vocal. I think that Candus knows, okay? And I think that Don may not know, because I think if he did, I think he'd go after Candus. So I think it's a really disastrous scenario. But nevertheless, you you put somebody in that kind of pressure where, you know, the last thing that they basically have is, well, at least we have a job. At least we've got some money coming in the house, right? Now you take the money away, you lose your job for a guy who is never going to find another job, right? He's never going to find another job. Well, at least not now, right now, because everybody thinks that they did something to their little girl. So what do you think is going to come of this? Like, do you think they're just going to go, okay, you got me, let me tell you all about it? No, that is not what's going to happen. You back somebody into a corner and they do what, I've forgotten the guy's name now. Remember the guy that took his wife camping in the middle of the night in the snow, and she went missing, and then CPS brought the 2 kids over for visitation, and then he ended up cutting the throat of the kids and burning them all down in the house. What is that guy's name? I used to know. I can't remember right now. Josh Powell, right? Thank you, critters. Thank you. Yes. You back somebody into a corner and there's nothing left. You back someone in a corner and they have nothing left to lose, or they have no hope or avenues to get some relief, then you basically are contributing to an upcoming absolute disaster. So we're kind of looking at the making of a disaster. It's been a disaster, no question. But things are about as bad on you know, Wells hell as it could be. And so when I heard that this police report was filed, I wasn't surprised. And then the story came out. So let me play this news clip.
Summer Wells reported her husband for a domestic assault. That's according to a report filed last week with the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office. The report shows officers were called to the Wells residence around 12:30 a.m. January 19th. Candace Bly allegedly told officers that she and Don Wells had been drinking alcohol and that he hit her, grabbed her by the throat, and pushed her against a wall. The report shows a different story from Wells, who claimed Bly had been drinking before he got home that night. He allegedly told police that while he and Bly did argue, he didn't touch her. The report states officers did not see any markings on Bly's neck. Neither parties were arrested, and both were referred to private prosecution. Meanwhile, the search continues for the couple's daughter, Summer Wells, who was reported missing in June of last year. Anyone with credible tips is asked to call the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation at 1-800-TBI-FIND.
Okay. Sorry about that. I got my big old head out of the way. I was looking at the original screen instead of the StreamYard. So I apologize, but y'all could hear the report, right? So I'm sorry about that. So of course things are not looking good up on Wells Hell. And like I said, you take everything away from a human being and they, you know, bad things can happen. So we'll see. I really do hope, I do hope that someone is reaching out to Candace and Dawn and trying to be a stabilizing force. And I'm gonna tell you what I think. I think they need to separate those two. I think Dawn needs to to be on his own for a little while, and Candus needs to be on her own for a little while. Otherwise, we could wake up to some terrible news. Right now, it's a disaster. Things are going quite bad. Let's see. The other, I'm going to tell you, I'm feeling this is going to be this could be a difficult little update because I don't feel good talking about this. Look, so I was very close to my dad growing up. Okay. I mean, he spent a lot of time with me. We rode horses. We were very good friends. And in my adult years, I called him every day on the phone and we would talk about things, to start the day. And, I'm not saying that it's odd for a girl to be close to dad. That's not what I'm saying at all. That's common to have daddy's little girl, right? That's common. But there's something else going on here. Okay. I'm going to make a montage of clips and try to show them this weekend about what I mean about what's so uncomfortable. But this little game that they've got going on where when they walk into the courtroom or they leave the courtroom or they walk into Walmart or they leave the Walmart and the girls are hanging on Barry and it's like Charlie's Angels or some kind of nonsense like that, right? The Mod Squad. It's beginning to look strange. And I noticed something today. So Barry had a hearing today. A lot of very odd things happened. Very strange things. The people that are really into this story, and there were, I believe there was about 50 of us in a channel together, watching Lauren Sharf's tweets and just trying to kind of keep up with all that was happening, right? It was about 50 or so. Nobody could find what the hell the judge was talking about. I mean, this prosecution, they are completely, okay, I'm going to say it this way. They seem to want to give the impression of complete and utter incompetence. Now, whether they are incompetent or not, I don't know. But they're playing a game like they are incompetent. So today, watching video of them going into the courthouse, leaving the courthouse and whatnot, I saw something very disturbing for me. And it was that they came out of the building and Barry's standing there right at the double doors. The youngest daughter was already outside. And the oldest daughter kind of came up behind him. And she looks at him and she has this look of, oh my gosh, are you okay? This depth of concern, right? And then she takes her right hand and she begins rubbing the top of his arm and his shoulder and ended up rubbing down onto his back. And she's sitting there rubbing, like massage, like really rubbing him. I'm going to tell you what came to my mind watching that. I thought to myself, that's like a wife taking comfort from or giving comfort to her husband. You know what I'm talking about? That need for physical touch, right? See, Kathy R. You saw it then, Kathy. You know what I'm talking about? It seemed too familiar, didn't it? It seemed way too familiar. Not the younger daughter. In fact, the younger daughter was sort of standing back away from him a little bit. And I thought to myself, good girl, keep listening to the evidence. Keep your ears open and listen to what you're finding out. But the older one, it was really odd, and it was very disturbing to me. And I'm going to tell you, I was very close to my dad. And I tried in my head, because I was thinking, am I being weird, you know, or was that really too familiar? I really don't, I cannot imagine rubbing on my dad the way that girl did. I am telling you, my dad and I were great friends, and we spent a lot of time together. We talked all the time. You know, the kind of you know, the kind of touch that between a dad and a child, it's like a playful kind of thing, right? It's like wrestling or you know, playing stupid hand games. Or this was different. Even in comfort, it's generally something like holding hands or hugging. This was different. This was so different. And the only way that I know to describe it was it really looked familiar. It looked like a wife or a husband who would be having like an intimate moment with their spouse. That's what it looked like. Well, it does, critters. And you know, we did talk about his strange apparent obsession with teenagers and sexual acts. And then he was using the monkey app, which is a bit like, I guess, Snapchat or something. So I don't know. It's yeah, the difference between a kiss on the cheek or a French kiss. Yeah. No, it just was not right. You could just see it, right? You could just see it. It was so strange. And it's that same daughter, you know, with his hand down on her bottom during taking the picture. It's just strange. No, I know he does, MJ. I don't have any doubt. I know he does. So, yeah. So what were some of the things that were strange? Well, so Officer Cahill resigned from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. And he had been questioned quite a bit during the preliminary about the whole DNA problem, right? Well, today it came out that when the information came out, the news came out about the DNA, that Cahill jumped up and said, "Don't worry about it. I can take care of this. I know people in Arizona, and I'll take care of it." And from that moment on, nobody on the prosecution's team ever said another word about the damn DNA until they got into court. How crazy is that? So don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. Turned into something really underhanded. And Jeff Lindsay, who was the lead prosecutor, who jumped up and resigned out of nowhere, Well, he had a subpoena to appear in court today. And when they got ready to call him to the stand, he was nowhere to be found. They were calling him on the phone. They were texting him, nowhere to be found. So sadly, unfortunately, it looks like some of the exculpatory evidence may stand alone as they remove some of the evidence that was damning against Barry. And if that ends up coming to fruition tomorrow, then the judge could very well say, we don't have enough to charge this man. I mean, we got a hell of a problem. It's a hell of a problem. Trust me. It's a hell of a problem. So Cahill is in a lot of trouble. There's an internal investigation into him because he fired a firearm in his home. So he had to resign from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. There is an internal investigation into him, and they have found that he fabricated documents or something. I don't remember how it was explained, but he screwed up 2 other cases by messing up the evidence. So the evidence couldn't be admitted into the court. So this one with Suzanne is now the 3rd case that his incompetence will have destroyed the whole entire prosecution. So it really can't look much worse than what it does. Also, so the morning was spent as the last preliminary hearing and those hearings since then, where Lauren Scharf was there, and she was live tweeting. And she's very good at it, right? You can follow along really well and know what's going on in the courtroom. Well, then they stopped and had lunch, and they were supposed to bring Lindsay back at 2:00 for him to take the stand because he wouldn't give the damn defense evidence that they were entitled to. They're playing all kinds of stupid games. It's unbelievable. Well, they went to lunch, and then everybody was waiting, for the live tweeting to start again. It didn't. And then finally, about 2 hours after lunch, we get a message from Lauren that says that someone hacked into the WebEx. And so the judge said no electronic equipment at all in the courtroom. So no information coming in or out of the courtroom. 0. The fix is in. He's walking. You see that son of a bitch on the screen? He's got $3 million in the bank. That's $3 million that he could stuff his mattress with. Not land and cars. 3 million cash. The fix is in. The fix is in. Oh my God, Cinnamon. Are you sure you meant to do that? I mean, send me an email because I will refund that. I'm shocked. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. Wow. It's more than generous. Yeah. You are a very kind person, Cinnamon. Thank you. So, thank you, Cinnamon. Thank you so much. I will save it because I do want to go to the trial if we end up having one. I don't even know if we're going to have one. At this point, I don't know if we're going to have one. So we're going to, tomorrow will tell us a lot, right? It will tell us a lot. But when I tell you that today could not have been any worse, here's what's happening right now. Barry Morphew is drinking champagne. That's how bad the day was. It is so shady. The whole case is so shady. No, I agree. What they did with Soho, with her stalking the hairdresser around town, getting her fired from her jobs, and then saying, no, we don't have any reason to protect you from her. Crazy, right? Soho was trespassing on other people's property, not just Barry's old property, but the apartment property, the property that belonged to one of the doctors in town. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. So I think the fix is in. I do. I think the fix is in. I think he's going to walk. And then the only thing left at that point then is to hope and pray that someone finds Suzanne. But I'm like Jeff Puckett. How do you not think he did it? At this point, how do you not think he did it? How could anyone go through that affidavit and walk away with even the slightest bit of doubt? So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's devastating. It's really, really bad. Okay. Now that being said, let's end this. Stop. Yeah, I'm not going to say that. This weekend I've got something that I'm going to be sharing, but I'm not going to say what it is. Okay. All right. So what I want to do now is I want to finally get to the prosecution on Jodi Arias, the second. It's day 21 of the trial, but it's the second day of Jodi being cross-examined, right? And so we have been going through and kind of doing a postmortem, and just kind of talking a bit about Juan Martinez, why he did why I think that he did some of the things that he did in the trial, and Jodi Arias and some of her behaviors being a bit, very unusual. Remember, I talked a lot about how Jodi was very gifted in her interpersonal acumen, that she's got a lot of charisma, charisma being that unexplainable spark that seems to draw people's attention. Some people have it, some people don't. She has it, but she's also an odd duck. She's, if you take the charisma away and you were left with just the oddity of her behavior, she would never make any friends, because people would all say, what's wrong with her? But because she's physically attractive, and then she's got this ability to be flirtish and coquettish, that charms some people, and they don't see the reality of who she is until the damage is done, right? So it seems that Juan Martinez was prepared. Someone educated him on this type of personality, and talked to him about her ability to dominate a conversation, or even worse, maybe, is to be able to hijack an intended meaning. And I think he must have worked really, really hard to understand, don't give her an inch. You can't give her an inch. You're going to have to keep her on yes or no questions. And when she tries to stray and explain away those yes or no's, then you got to put your foot down. And he does. He's done a remarkable job. In fact, he's one of the reasons why the trial is so enjoyable. Am I right? I mean, how many of you found yourselves cheering for Juan like it was a sporting event, right? Because she was so oppositional and she was so difficult. I mean, poor old Nermi. Nermi hates her guts. Nermi hates the girl more than Juan hates her.
Please be seated. The record will show the presence of the jury, the defendant, and all counsel. Exhibit 458 is admitted. Mr. Martinez, you may continue with cross-examination.
Ma'am, when we left off, we were talking about the issue involving the Tootsie Pops and the Pop Rocks, and that can be referenced.
Thank you so much, Banu. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And regardless of whether it happened on Sunday or Thursday, that's the same incident because you missed Lonnie's baptism. Exhibit
Yes.
458 is the entry for Sunday, January 20th, 2008. Do you see that?
Yes.
And it starts out, well, I'm at the Institute building, Dobson and Southern, the sister missionaries, correct?
Yes.
There are some 2 blank pages and then a third page that begins and says, so I went to the church building and met with the sisters and gave them a ride to the Institute building where I am now, correct?
Yes.
That's part of the same entry for that January 20th, 2008 date, correct?
Yes.
There are no, in the whole body of that particular entry, there are no other dates mentioned, correct?
There's another day reference, but not a date.
I'm asking dates, aren't I? Right?
It's implied. It is.
Okay, just get ready for this, okay? Your mouth is going to hit the ground when you realize what game she's playing right here. For someone who is intelligent and can pick up on these nuances, she seems to have no awareness at all for how she affects people, right? She can play these games to be oppositional and controlling, but she lacks the ability for insight and introspection. She has no idea that she is making people hate her.
No, I'm asking dates. Do you see anywhere in those 5 or 6 pages another date?
Yes.
Show me where there is another DATE date in exhibit
You're wrong, Jodi.
2.002.
But she knows everything.
Date where it says Thursday.
It
She's
says
gonna.
Thursday night, though, doesn't it?
She's so
It
smug.
doesn't say a date, does it?
No.
That didn't quite go the way she envisioned that it would go.
And we're getting to it when it says Thursday. That's at the lower right-hand corner of this exhibit number 458, correct?
That's correct.
And your testimony involving the Pop Rocks, exhibit number 457, does indicate that you thought it was a Thursday, right?
Yes.
You indicated previously that you were having trouble remembering it. Did this exhibit refresh your recollection?
Yes.
And so you're indicating I'm sitting with next to Sisters Knight, who's totally trying to read this, and Lonnie, who was just confirmed today, right?
Yes.
And that's the Lonnie that we've been talking about, right?
Yes.
He was baptized Thursday night, which is the date that is referenced in your previous testimony, right?
Right.
Shame on me. I was, quote unquote, wrapped up in other activities that pulled me away from attending the baptism. And the reason that's in quotes is because you're trying to get across something else other than being wrapped up, right?
Yes.
You're trying to get across that this involved a liaison or a sexual liaison with Travis Alexander, right?
Yes.
And You said namely work, but then getting prepped to go to Travis's house for the night, where we explored every naughty fantasy we could conjure up in our fruitful imaginations that we haven't already fulfilled with one another. I love him, I really do, right?
Yes,
And the fantasy that you're talking about involved the Tootsie Pops and Pop Rocks, correct?
part of it did, yes.
Part of it, well, ma'am, this transcript that we talked about only talks about the Tootsie Pops and Pop Rocks, doesn't it?
No, it mentions bubble bath.
It mentions what? And the bubble bath is part of the Tootsie Pops and Pop Rocks, right?
They were separate the same night.
Same night, separate.
Golly.
Is that how this reads, ma'am? The transcript, is that how it reads?
I don't know if it reads that way, but
Well,
that's
then
what it
take a
is.
look at 459, which is the partial transcript, and see if that's how it reads. That is
So
it.
much arrogance. So much
Different,
arrogance.
how? I don't know.
Well, the way you were trying to tell me that it was different, that it talks about a different sequence of events.
Yes, it references two different sequences.
Which do you see?
Events.
Are you talking about the issue involving the bathtub?
Yes,
Isn't that part of the Tootsie Pops and Pop Rocks and engagement, if you will?
not in the bathtub.
It didn't happen on the same day, man?
Same day, yes.
Same encounter?
Yes, I guess.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, did he
Wow.
ejaculate twice that night?
Yes.
So are you saying that when you were involved?
Look
in
at the
bath,
man
that was
who's
hours
taking
later than the
notes.
Tootsie Pops and Pop Rocks? Is that what you're
Look at
saying?
his face.
No,
It was part of the same encounter, wasn't it?
yes, I guess.
When you keep saying, I guess, you were there though, right?
I was there.
And you were enjoying it, weren't you?
Yes,
And you enjoyed the Tootsie Pops and the Pop Rocks, correct?
I enjoyed his attention.
No.
Okay. All right. So, look, the man, Juan Martinez ends up, I know it's so funny, Carol. Here's what makes it even harder when you start laughing about it. Here's what makes it so egregious is that you're talking about a horrifying murder. I mean, it wasn't like she got mad at him and pulled the trigger and then said, "Oh my God, what happened? What'd I do?" She killed him 3 times. She shot him in the head. She stabbed him 27 times in the back. And then she cut his head off by slitting his throat. So you look at this woman now who sets up one of the most impossible conversations where Juan Martinez, the story is, the Tootsie Pop and the Pop Rocks and then a bubble bath afterwards, right? I mean, that's kind of not hard to, understand. And she said, no, it's 2 different things. And Martinez is going, what are you talking about? It was all on the same day. Why are you saying it's 2 things? I mean, he seemed genuinely, in the beginning, he seemed genuinely perplexed while she was saying this. But again, she was being oppositional. She was not going to agree with anything he said. Anything he says, she has to obstruct and confuse. That's the goal of what she's doing, to obstruct and confuse. She doesn't want him to be able to lay out his theory and supporting evidence in a neat, orderly manner. Her only hope is in confusing the jury, confusing Juan, making Juan mad so he makes a mistake, right? But this is Juan Martinez. He's not going to get mad. He finally stops and says, "Ma'am, did he ejaculate twice?" And at that moment, you can see it on Jodi's face. The game is up. She has no choice at that point but to admit, yeah, okay, well, I guess you're right.
I want to know if you enjoyed the Tootsie Pops and the Pop Rocks. I'm not asking you about his attention. All right.
I can't say enjoy would be the right word.
Well, so what you're saying is when we talk about
Oppositional, that's right, critters.
You're saying you didn't enjoy it, did not enjoy it,
I'm
correct?
not saying that either.
Well, there can't be a middle ground. You either enjoyed it or you didn't, right?
That's not correct.
Oh, so you can go, in your view, you can go through an act and not enjoy it, but also enjoy it. What are you trying to say?
Am I allowed to tell you what I'm trying to say?
I want to know whether or not you enjoyed it.
I wouldn't characterize it that way.
So you're saying you did not enjoy it? Just want to be
If
clear.
you're speaking only in the context of the Tootsie Pops and the
And
Pop
the Pop
Rocks,
Rocks, sure.
I wouldn't call it enjoyed.
And notice she says, well, I wouldn't really call it enjoy. Notice he didn't say, well, what would you call it, or define enjoyment or any of those. No, why? Because he was coached. Don't let her define the narrative. Keep your questions at yes and no as much as possible. He really did a great job. I mean, she's tough. She is the thought of being in a room having conversations with her is pretty daunting.
You would not say that you enjoyed it, right?
I would not say enjoyed.
And if we then take a look, though, at exhibit number 458, which references that encounter involving Lonnie, right?
Lonnie, no. You mean?
It didn't involve the baptism involving Lonnie?
I don't understand your
Well,
question.
then let's just take a look at it, okay? We're talking about, irrespective of the date, we've referenced it as Lonnie's baptism, just for point of reference. You remember we talked about that, right?
That's right.
During this encounter that we've been calling Lonnie's baptism, there were some Pop Rocks and Tootsie Pops that were involved, right?
No, Lonnie's baptism did not involve Tootsie Pops and Pop Rocks.
Man,
Wow.
both know what
Did
we're
the
talking
word
about.
bitch
This
come
girl
to mind?
references Lonnie's baptism, doesn't it?
Yes.
And you missed Lonnie's
Horrible
baptism, right?
woman.
Yes.
And the reason you missed Lonnie's baptism is because you were having a Tootsie Pop placed somewhere, right?
Yes, that's one of the reasons.
Okay?
What?
And this exhibit here.
One of the
exhibit
reasons.
number
Wait a minute.
458,
Okay, hold on. So she says, no, Lonnie's baptism had nothing to do with Tootsie Pops and Pop Rocks, right? So she's being a smart aleck. Oh, well, yeah, because she's smiling. She's enjoying it. She's having fun. She's sparring. She's feeling superior. She thinks that her intellect matches Juan Martinez. And she may actually think that she's smarter than Juan, would be my guess. The girl can't get a high school diploma, but somehow she believes that intellectually she's on the same level as a man who is a very successful attorney, right? So this is a game to her. A game about a night where she shot a man in the head, stabbed him 27 times, and then cut his throat. So the fact that she can find anything funny about any of this shows you just how emotionally disconnected she really is, right? So she says, no, that Lonnie's baptism had nothing to do with Pop Rocks and, Tootsie Pops. And so Juan kind of gets irritated, right? That she is drawing out, she's making him work so hard to stay so targeted on the facts, shows you just how skillful some of these liars can be. And the more threatened they get of being exposed, the more audacious they can construct their lies, and they can back their lies up because of these kinds of games like what you're seeing here. But again, notice Juan doesn't let her get away with it. Even if he has to back up and start at the beginning, he works and he works and he works until finally she says yes. and then agrees with whatever he's been saying. But she creates a great deal of chaos before ever admitting to what he's saying.
Does say that you explored every naughty fantasy we could conjure up in our fruitful imaginations that we haven't already fulfilled with one another, right?
Yes.
This doesn't say that you didn't enjoy it, does it?
No.
It does say you did enjoy it, doesn't it?
I don't see the word enjoy in there.
No, did I say the word
Here
enjoy?
come the games.
Yes. You
I
said
did
it
say
said
the
I
word was
enjoyed it.
enjoy there? It says you explored every naughty fantasy we could conjure up in our fruitful imaginations. You're saying that having a fruitful imagination, that's not enjoyment, is what you're saying, right?
I'm not saying that.
And you're saying that every naughty fantasy, that's a bad thing, right? That's what you're saying.
I'm not saying that.
Her
Well,
family
Hot
heard
Rocks were
terrible
part of this
things,
naughty
Bella.
fantasy, weren't they?
Part of it, yes.
And they were part of fulfilling your imaginations, right?
She said terrible
His
things
imagination.
about her family,
Oh, so,
too.
So even though you wrote it, he didn't write this, did he?
I wrote it.
That's right. And those are your words, right?
Yes.
And so even though you say, haven't already fulfilled with one another these fruitful imaginations and all of that stuff, well, that doesn't really mean what it says. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that.
Well, it doesn't distinguish between Pop Rocks and it doesn't distinguish between Tootsie Pops, does it?
No, it doesn't.
And yet you're saying here that they are different, right?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
What you're saying goes against what's written there, doesn't
No,
it?
it does not go against it.
Where? Show me here. Point it out where it says, I did not enjoy the Tootsie Pop encounter. Does it say that
I didn't
anywhere
write
there?
anything like that in my journal.
It doesn't say anything there like that, does it?
That's correct.
And it doesn't say anything there that you did not enjoy the Pop Rocks encounter, does it?
That's right.
And nothing.
So after all that, her getting to feel so superior as she confuses things, in the end, she has this realization, damn, he's not going to quit. Like, he's going to make me just keep looking stupid over and over and over. And so begrudgingly, she says, yeah, okay, I didn't write that. Okay, Juan, you're right. I didn't write that. You can almost see her rolling her eyes, right?
Nothing prevented you from writing that in there, right?
That's right.
And you could have written anything that you wanted. It's not like you didn't have pens, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And you had enough space to write it because we know there was an entry after that, right?
Yes.
And it's a situation where you considered this to be a secret kind of thing, so that if you wrote whatever you wanted there, you had a reasonable expectation that it would remain private, right?
Reasonable.
Which means you had an expectation that it would remain private, right?
Yeah, the court reporter, I love watching the expression on his face.
Well, you were living with another individual. I think you said Rachel, correct?
Not at this date.
Okay, where were you living?
I was living at 9634 East Nido Avenue in East Mesa.
Is that an apartment or were you renting a room?
I was renting a room.
And in that room that you rented, you kept this journal, right?
Yes.
So no one really had any authority to go into your room, right?
That's not right.
Well, are you saying that people in that house went through your journal? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that.
So you did have an expectation that your journal would remain private there, right?
While it was at home, yes.
So you're saying that somebody broke in and looked at your journal? Is that what you're saying?
No, because that would be at home.
Well,
Look how pleased she
you took your
looks.
journal at home, didn't you?
I took it everywhere with me.
So what you're saying is if you went somewhere, it could have fallen into the wrong hands. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
You never reported to the police that your journal ever went. Anybody ever looked at your journal, correct?
I don't think that's a crime, so no, I didn't.
Well, did I ask you if it was a crime?
No, you didn't.
Are you a lawyer? Do you know what a crime is and what isn't?
I have a pretty good idea, but I'm not an attorney.
And so if somebody broke into your house and read your journal, you're saying, you wouldn't report it because you wouldn't think that was a crime, right?
That's right. Not the breaking and entering part, just the reading.
Oh, so now you're drawing a distinction, but isn't this where this journal was kept most of the time? With you in your home?
No, I misunderstood what you said. My understanding was that you were talking about if somebody was looking in my journal, if I would have reported that. No, I would not have reported somebody reading.
So what's the lesson here? Okay. She is too much. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree completely. Look, here's the lesson. Okay. People that have something to hide, or they're lying, which would be somebody having something to hide. They confusion only benefits them, right? When there's truth shines in a situation where things are orderly, right? But if you're lying or you're hiding, covering up something, you want there to be confusion. You want there to be mistakes. It makes it difficult then to discern what's real and truthful and what's not. So her, she's oppositional. Her driving force is that she'll never let Juan lay out his strategy, that she doesn't want the jury to ever hear his well thought out narrative with supporting evidence. She doesn't want that. So what she wants to do is she wants to interject confusion. She wants to get Juan off on tangential thoughts and conversations. She wants to make the jury confused. Right? Okay. And apparently, Randy, she wants to write salacious details about Candy and then have someone steal her journal and, yeah. No, I don't think so. Look, half of the crap she wrote in her journal, on hindsight, to me, it looks like it was contrived and that she was writing it with the idea of an upcoming trial. That just like her stupid little property of Travis Alexander, pajamas. There was a lot of created evidence that she went through the motions of that wasn't real, I don't think.
My journal to the police.
Part of this encounter that you had involving the Tootsie Pops also involved braids, correct?
Yes.
And you have a definite opinion on the braids, don't you?
Yes, I have an opinion.
And you think they're hot, don't you?
Look at the court reporter's face. This is pretty funny.
I guess.
Well, no, you're the person that knows. We don't want you to guess. You think that the braids are hot, don't you?
I think cute is more appropriate.
Ma'am?
He doesn't approve.
Let's take a listen then. I'll have this marked as an exhibit. It's part of the conversation that you had with Mr. Alexander back on May 10th of 2008. I'll mark it. I'll have you listen to it to see whether or not that is your voice and whether or not we're talking about the braids.
You know what I really liked is when we were in the bath with the candles and I had the braids. They have her bubbles kind of on top of.
Oh, I love the braids.
I know, those are hot.
That was your voice, right?
Yes.
And you're talking about braids, right?
Yes.
And you're talking about how much you like them, right?
Yes.
And
Why did she have to think about it?
Yes.
And this encounter involving the Pop Rocks and Tootsie Pops also involved braids, right?
Yes.
So you enjoyed those braids, right?
I don't.
Weird.
It's not a yes or no answer.
Well,
Oh my
I did
God.
hear you saying that you enjoyed them, right? Do you want to hear it again?
No,
You did hear that, right?
I said I like them.
When you say that you like them, isn't it true that that means that if there's something that's enjoyable?
Yes,
And you also said they were hot, right?
yes,
So during your sexual encounters with Mr. Alexander, if you wore braids, you thought they were hot and you liked them, right?
I liked his attention.
So strange.
Was hot and liked him.
Restate the question.
When you were with Mr. Alexander, isn't it true? You wore braids, you liked them.
Yes,
And with regard to
So
the
now
braids,
she
isn't
just
it true that when
decides
you
to
were with Mr.
agree. It's
Alexander,
very
you
odd.
thought the braids were hot.
okay.
Oh, no, I'm not asking for an okay. I'm asking for you to tell me the truth. What is it that you believe?
I believe that he thought it was hot, so it was hot.
So what you're saying here with regard to exhibit number 460 and that telephone call that was played during your direct examination, you're saying you lied?
No,
Well, you want to listen here when you say that they're hot?
I just heard it.
Right, and it doesn't say anything about you doing this with Mr. Alexander anywhere, does it?
No, that's implied.
It's implied, let's listen to it.
You know what I really liked is when we were in the bath with the candles and I had braids. Okay, some of her bubbles, and I was on top of,
Oh, I love the braids.
I know if they're hot.
That's your voice, right?
Yes, and Travis's.
Did I ask you if that was Travis's voice, man?
I didn't know which voice you were talking about.
Did I ask you if that was Travis's voice?
No,
We're talking about your voice. That was your voice, right?
yes,
And you do say that those braids are hot, right?
yes,
And you said it because you believed it, right?
yes.
These two entries that we have here, these journal entries,
So much wasted time, right? With her games.
exhibit number.
Yeah, can't make
4.
sense of crazy. That's right.
You start them out by dating them at the upper left-hand corner of each of that one, which is exhibit 456 and 458. You also date it on the upper left-hand corner or the left-hand corner. Do you see that?
Yes,
And you've already told us that there are no dates in between the Sunday 12008 and Thursday 12408, correct?
correct.
And you looked at the journal, right?
Yes,
There are no entries between those two dates, right?
that's right.
And it's fair to say that September 22nd of 2008 falls between this gap here, correct?
Correct.
And nowhere do you mention either in this January 24th of 08 or January 20th of 08 document, you don't mention anything about this physical encounter with Mr. Alexander that you told us happened on January 22nd of 2008, do you?
No, I would have never.
I'm not asking if you would ever. Do you mention it there?
I said no.
And with regard to not mentioning it there, nothing stopped you from mentioning it, right?
Yes, something did stop me.
So you're saying that somebody held your hand and stopped you from writing that?
I'm not saying that.
Are you saying that somebody came into your house and stole your journals and said, you know, and took whatever was the journal there so that took the journal so you couldn't write in it?
I'm not saying that.
You had the ability to write in it, right?
Yes,
You had the free will to write in it, didn't you?
yes.
And there is nothing there, correct?
Referencing that incident?
Pardon?
Do you mean referencing that incident?
I can't hear what you're saying.
Do you mean referencing that incident? There's nothing there regarding
Right,
that?
there's nothing referencing that incident between those two dates, is there?
There is not.
The reason it's not there is because it didn't happen, right?
That's not right.
They almost made her look like a little,
An exhibit
like one of the
456.
attorneys, didn't they?
I haven't written because there has been nothing noteworthy to report, right?
That's right.
So to you, getting this injury to the left ring finger, that's no big deal then, right?
That's
what
not
you're
what it
saying?
says.
Pardon?
That's not what it says.
You see, Jodi had previously said hours ago that Travis Alexander physically assaulted her, okay, during this time frame, and that the assault was so bad that it actually broke her finger on her hand, and that when it healed, it healed so that it would be forever, misaligned. Well, what Juan is trying to do with these journal entries, he's trying to show her, this was a big deal for you to be assaulted physically and hurt, but you don't mention it other than just talking about how much you love Travis. And that's why she can't admit to anything that he's saying, because she's going to be revealed a liar about the physical abuse.
I'm not asking you what it says. I'm asking you what you think. It's no big deal to you then, right? Right?
That's not right.
Well, you came in, you told us about it, right? But it's not written in your journal, right?
No,
You didn't call the police, right?
no,
You didn't get any medical care for it, right?
not professional medical care.
Ma'am, did you go to a doctor to get it looked at?
No,
Did you go to a hospital to get it looked at?
no,
Did you go to a friend's house or an acquaintance to tell them about it?
definitely not.
And with regard to the conversation that you had with Detective Flores back on July 16th of 2008, you didn't tell him anything about that, did you?
No, definitely not.
In fact, you gave him a different story, didn't you?
Yes,
You told him something about these two people and how you got that injury to that finger, right?
yes,
So you're saying that what you told the detective there was a lie.
yes.
So you, in your view, when do you decide to tell the truth? When you're in this court and no place else? Is that what I'm hearing from you?
No,
I mean, just because you're in this court doesn't mean you have to tell the truth. That's what you're telling us, right?
that's not what I'm telling anyone.
Ma'am,
I see somebody asking in the chat about who paid for Jodi Arias' defense. Well, Nurmi and co-counsel, they were court appointed. Okay, this was a death penalty, so he has a higher standard of experience, and so the total cost to the taxpayer was more than $3 million, all said and done. And that amount does not include the money that it costs to keep her alive every day.
nothing has stopped you from telling this story ever, correct?
That's not correct.
You have free will, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Nothing the detective did stopped you from telling him, right?
Flores, no.
Nothing stopped. You had a car back then, didn't you?
When?
When this supposedly happened.
When?
22nd of 08.
Yes,
When?
You could have driven yourself to a hospital, right?
yes,
You could have. Do you remember telling us about an incident that occurred in August of 2007 where you caught Mr. Alexander kissing some other girl, right?
yes,
And you told us that, well, with regard to that incident, I called my father, right?
yes,
And you told him some things about you had seen and what had happened the day before, right?
yes.
Nothing would have stopped you from calling your father to tell him that, right?
Well, sorry, I'm kind of hyper literal sometimes.
Yes or no?
Nothing did that day.
Yes or no? Would anything have stopped you from calling your father?
Maybe, but
Well, ma'am, you didn't have any problem calling him in August of 2007 and complaining, did you?
I did have a problem with it. He had to convince me to tell him.
Well, you called him and you told him, right?
Eventually, yes, I did.
You called him and you told him, right?
Yes,
You could have called him and said, hey, I got this problem with my finger. You had a telephone, right?
I didn't have a problem with my finger then.
Well, I thought that you told us when you testified that on January 22nd of 2008 was when you had this finger injured by Mr. Alexander. Do you remember telling us that?
Yes, January, yes.
And so in January 22nd of 2008 or any time thereafter, you had a telephone, right?
Yes,
You could have called your father and Could have told them, right?
Could have, yes.
But you didn't.
I wouldn't have, no, I did not.
And no one knew about this injury or this supposed or claimed injury to the little finger until after you killed Mr. Alexander, right?
That's right.
Now,
Notice how demure she gets when she has to
that was a
talk
significant
about the
date,
death of Travis.
January 22nd of 2008, correct?
Yes,
It was significant for a number of reasons, including the fact that you claimed that on January 21 of 2008, you caught Mr. Alexander masturbating to some images of boys, correct?
I only saw one image. It was a boy.
Ma'am, didn't you say that
She
there were
claimed that there
images?
were pictures
There were more than one?
everywhere.
There were more than one image. I only caught a
So
quick
was
view
there
of
more
one
than one
image.
image? I'm sorry, was there more than one image, ma'am?
Yes,
Okay, but you only saw one, right?
one
According
clearly,
to
yes.
you.
Mhm.
Is that yes?
That's yes.
And that was the day before this supposed thing happened on January, or where he had this violent issue with you on January 22nd of 2008, right?
That's right.
And if we go again to this entry here of 456, I haven't written because there
That's
has
right,
been
critters.
nothing noteworthy to report. That's what you wrote.
She wants to look weak, doesn't she?
The way you explain it to us here, this issue involving this claimed issue involving Mr. Alexander, that's pretty noteworthy, isn't it?
Not for my journal, but
Is it
yes,
noteworthy?
in reality, I guess it is very noteworthy.
It's noteworthy to you, isn't it?
It is today.
It's noteworthy to you, isn't it?
I already answered your question.
And the answer is yes or no.
Oh my God.
And it's so noteworthy to you.
See,
that you
now
waited
she's becoming an
until after
attorney,
you killed Mr.
right?
Alexander
Now she's going to be able to make her own objections. This is a true narcissist at work.
to tell anybody about it, right?
I waited years.
The answer is, did you wait until after this prosecution started, after you were charged, to tell anybody about it, correct?
Overruled.
Yes, I waited years.
And ma'am, one of the things that the way you made it sound was that he had a problem, right?
He did have a problem.
That's what you claim, right?
That's the reality.
That's what you claim, correct?
Okay, yes.
When back then there was this problem, did you call, for example, the way you made it sound is he had this huge problem. Did you call, for example, Child Protective Service?
No,
I mean, you made it sound that there was such a big problem that he even went and spent the night somewhere at a friend's house and they had a child, and that concerned you. Do you remember telling us that on direct examination?
yes,
Good
And
Lord.
yet, you didn't go to that person and tell him, hey, he's got this issue, did you?
no,
You didn't go to the police department and tell him anything, right?
no.
You chose to keep that allegation until about 2 years ago. Is that right?
After he
I
died.
think it's almost 3 years ago at this point. No. I think it was almost 3.5, 4 years ago at this point.
Pick a year. What year did you
Pick
disclose?
a year, any year.
And
I told somebody.
and you were arrested back in July of 2008, right?
Yes.
And when this detective interviewed you, you didn't tell him anything about it, did you?
No.
Definitely not.
And you could have, though, right?
Yes.
In theory, yes, I could have.
Now, one
In
of the things-
theory. Notice she said in theory.
The hearing that was scheduled involving this, what time did this allegation happen? When do you claim that, we know the date, what time do you claim that you saw this masturbatory activity?
So
It would have
notice,
been in the afternoon after my morning shift.
notice Nermi. Okay. You see his body language now, right? He's changed. The whole trial, he's laid way back. He's relaxing. He's just kind of taking it all in. But now they get to the photographs, Travis Alexander's alleged problem. Now he's leaning forward. He's all in. He's paying close attention. Why? Because that is, reminiscent of Casey Anthony. That's her defense. That that she threatened she was going to tell, and he was trying to stop her.
What time do you claim that you saw this masturbatory activity?
It would have been in the afternoon after my morning shift.
And what time would that have been then?
I don't know the exact time, but it was afternoon well before it was dark. It was still light out.
Okay, can you be more specific? Was it noon?
It was afternoon.
All right, was it 2 o'clock?
Objection, asked and answered, Sheriff says.
Restate the question.
If it was so noteworthy, why can't you remember the time?
It was kind of traumatic.
So,
Why does she look down at the floor like she's so demure?
weren't your senses heightened at that time that you saw this? Didn't you get angry or upset?
Objection, comment, question.
Were you angry?
I was sick to my stomach.
Ma'am, were you
I was not
angry?
angry.
Were you angry?
I became angry later, but not in that moment.
Were you angry at that time, ma'am?
I said not in that moment.
So the answer is no, right?
Yes.
Were you upset at that time?
Yes.
So if you're upset, aren't you your senses heightened at that time to know the time?
Objection, she said answer the question.
Can you repeat that?
Weren't your senses heightened because of this anger to at least know the time so somebody could check it out?
Well, you said because of anger, but I wasn't angry at that moment.
Me too, Desired.
Well, then you see this, you're not angry and you're not upset, right?
I am upset.
Oh, you are upset. If you're upset, don't you think that would have heightened your senses over what you just saw?
My mind doesn't work like that.
So the answer is no then, right?
Objection, asked and answered.
It kind of moved in slow motion, so if that's heightened,
Is it yes or no, ma'am?
it's kind of a matter of opinion. I don't know.
And I'm asking for your opinion.
Can't ask and answer. She can't speculate.
Overruled.
It is nonsense, Diane. It is. I agree with
Whether
you.
it's heightened, my perception of things, is that your question?
Right. At that time when you're viewing this, the way you described this, bad act.
Oh, absolutely, Teresa. It was devastating for them.
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, it's something I'm never going to forget, but I wish I could.
What do you mean you're not going to forget it? You can't even explain what happened, lady. Of course, nothing happened. That's why you can't explain your experience.
Objection, Ms. Addresses testimony. She said she doesn't know the time.
Restate your question, sustained.
You said that you'll never forget it, right?
The incident.
Right. And I'm asking you, isn't it true that you forgot the time?
Objection again, in Ms. Addresses testimony. She said she never knew the time.
Sustained, rephrase.
You said that you had just been out from Mimi's Cafe, right?
For a little while.
Pardon?
For a little while. I was off work for a little while.
You worked at Mimi's Cafe, right?
Yes.
You had been working that day, right?
Yes.
Your shift was over, right?
Yes.
What time did your shift start?
It varied.
That day. What
Knows what time she got off work.
In the
He
morning.
knows.
What time?
He's trying to
Sometime
get
in the morning.
her.
I don't know the exact time.
He
You
wants
don't know
her
the
to say it.
exact time, yet you knew that you had to be there on that day at a certain
Yes.
time? What time does Mimi's open?
I've never opened Mimi's, so I'm not sure, but they open early.
So you don't know the time that it opens, you don't know the time that you went to work, right?
Not the exact time.
Just the morning is what you can
She
get,
gives
right?
herself just enough wiggle
So
room,
if you
doesn't
went
she?
at 10 o'clock, 10 to 12 would only be 2 hours, right?
That's right.
was it an 8-hour shift, ma'am?
No, they aren't 8-hour shifts.
So on that day, it was not an 8-hour shift, right?
That's right.
How many hours was your shift?
It depended on the flow of business.
I understand that it may depend on that. How many hours did you work on January 21 of 2008 on this day that this horrible thing you claim happened?
I would only be able to tell you a range.
How many hours then? Give me a range. Since what you're telling me is you don't know.
I know the range, but not the exact.
So you're telling me you don't know the exact hours, right?
Yes.
And anything else that you would give me would be a guess, right?
Yes.
And ma'am, do you have, I mean, you had a lot of memory for a lot of events involving sexual instances with Mr. Alexander, yet you seem to be having problems with your memory here today. And you also alluded to a little bit that you have problems with your memory. Is this a long-standing thing that you've had problems with your memory, or is this just something that happened recently?
Sustained.
Your problems with your memory, is it a recent vintage?
Define recent.
I don't know, since you started testifying.
Recent vintage.
How long far back does it go?
I don't even know if I'd call it a problem.
Well, just tell me how far back it goes. You said you were going to tell me, so tell me, please.
How far back what goes?
We're talking about your memory problem, right?
I don't know that I'd really call it a problem.
Okay.
I don't remember every single thing that's ever happened to me in my whole life.
Ma'am, your memory issues, we're talking about those, right?
I wouldn't even call them issues, but okay, my memory.
Well, you don't want to call them problems, right?
She is, Teresa.
No, I don't.
You don't want to call them issues, right?
I don't know. I really
Right,
don't.
you don't want to call them issues. You just told me that, right?
I didn't say I don't want to.
All right, so you're
Golly,
you wanna
this
call them
woman.
issues then?
Okay.
With regard to these memory issues that you claim to have, when did you start having them?
See, Jody's
It depends
finding
on the
out
type of
she's
memory issue.
not so smart.
If it benefits you, you have a memory issue,
Objection, argumentative, Your Honor.
or if it hurts you, you have a memory issue.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Well,
When it hurts, sometimes I
ma'am, there's no question right now. You say that you have memory problems, but it depends on the circumstance, right?
That's right.
And give me the factors. I don't want to know about a specific circumstance. What factors influence your having a memory problem?
Usually when men like you are screaming at me or grilling me, or someone like Travis. doing
Oh, now the
So
victim
that's
is on the
something like that,
stand.
it makes my brain scramble.
So you're saying that it's basically what you're saying is Mr. Martinez's fault that you can't remember things that are going on.
That's what she said, one.
I'm not saying that. You're saying that, isn't it?
No, I'm not saying that.
You
Is there
did say it,
something
Jody.
about a certain decibel of the voice that creates problems?
Mhm.
Decibel, tone, content, sort of a combination of those factors.
Duping delight. Did you see it? Did y'all see it? You heifer.
You may.
You damn heifer.
Did you get off of work?
She does. She's eating the attention up,
In the
Teresa.
afternoon,
Well, hold on. Let me finish the question. What time did you get off the Mimi's on January 21 of 2008?
Objection, ask and answer. She's already said repeatedly she doesn't know the time.
Remember things that are going on.
it's not your fault.
I'm not saying that.
I
You're
want to
saying
watch.
it, isn't it?
I want to watch the
Is
duping
there
delight
something
one more
about
time.
A certain decibel of the voice that creates problems?
Decibel,
Okay, now watch, because she had to take some time to cultivate this answer, right? So she's gonna put together a particularly brilliant comment, and then watch her. She literally almost laughs out loud on the stand. Literally. She knows she's being ridiculous.
Visible tone, content,
Watch.
sort of a combination of those factors.
Bam. Just hear her. She is a heifer.
Did you get off of work for meetings?
In the afternoon,
Well, hold on.
Not likely, BBT.
What time did you get off of meetings on January 21 of 2008?
Objection, ask and answer. She's already said repeatedly she doesn't know the time.
a time in the afternoon.
Can you be
See
more
how
specific?
smart she is?
Time. Why not?
Because I don't think I was looking at my watch or my phone or any other clock.
Where did you go after you left Mimi's?
I went to Travis's house.
Went directly to Mr. Alexander's house, right?
That's right.
And what time did you get over to his house?
I'm sorry,
Couldn't hear me?
I couldn't hear you.
What time did you get over to his house?
Objection, ask and answer. She's already said.
About 20 minutes after I left Mimi's.
And when you got there, ma'am, did you walk in?
Yes,
Front door?
yes,
Was it open?
yes,
Was it unlocked?
yes,
And you said you walked in and you went straight up the stairwell, right?
yes.
And you didn't say a word going up the stairwell, did you?
I'm sorry?
You didn't say a word going up the stairway, did you?
I don't remember.
Didn't call out his name, right?
I might have, yes.
And ma'am, in January 21 of 2008, you and he were broken up, weren't you?
Yes,
So it wasn't like you were boyfriend and girlfriend that you went over every day, right?
we were not boyfriend, girlfriend, but I went over almost every day.
Pardon?
We were not boyfriend, girlfriend, but I did go over almost every day.
You're mumbling, I didn't hear you.
We were not boyfriend, girlfriend, but I did go to his house almost every day.
And on this particular day, what were you there to do?
He needed help putting boxes up in his attic.
And had you talked to him about this previously?
Yes,
Was it via text message or was it via some other method?
I don't remember. It was discussed.
Was it via telephone?
Probably.
Well, ma'am, how could you discuss it by telephone if you were working at Mimi's?
It was discussed previous to my shift.
So what time did you discuss it then?
It had to do with, well, it wasn't that day. It was weeks ahead of time. It was about the Christmas things that were in his attic.
So now it wasn't that day that you discussed it, right?
Once I got there, we were discussing it.
I want to know if that day that you claim this happened, if there was a telephone call in the morning.
I don't remember that part.
And if back then, what was your number? We've already heard it, but,
831-402-1901.
and that would have been the number that you called him on, right? That you used to call him. That would have been the telephone that you would have used to call him, right?
Usually, yes.
That was your telephone, right?
Yes, that was my cell phone.
And you say, well, normally I would use that to call him. Pray tell, what other circumstances would there be that you wouldn't use your cell phone to call him?
Landlines.
Pardon?
Landlines.
You had a landline also at your home, right?
There were landlines in the homes where I lived.
Pardon?
There were landlines in the homes where I lived.
I'm not asking about the homes where you lived. I'm asking about the homes on January 20, your home on January 21 of 2008.
There was not a landline in that home.
There was not one, was there?
No, there was not.
So you would have had to use your cell phone to call him, right?
I probably would have used my cell phone if I called him that day, yes.
And now you're saying you're not sure if you called them that morning, right?
I
Wow.
don't think I did because he didn't get up early.
It's exhausting, isn't it, to
So
listen
you're
to
saying
her?
you didn't call him that morning, right?
I don't recall if I did or not.
Well, then, I thought you said that there was some agreement or arrangement for you to go over there that day.
There was.
All right, what was the arrangement?
The arrangement was after Christmas, when he had packed up all of his things to put them in the attic.
No, I'm not asking about that. I'm asking about the arrangement, about the time when you were going to go over. I don't really care about what the activity was. What was the arrangement about when you were going to come over, how that was going to work?
Just whenever it made sense.
So whenever it made sense, you were going to go over that day.
Yes, that day was.
It is, Bella. It's
And-
so exhausting.
You don't know if you talked to him in the morning about telling him that it was that day that you were going to be over.
I don't remember.
And if you didn't talk to him, your coming over would have been a surprise then after working at Mimi's, right?
No, he was expecting me the first time.
How would he be able
Wow.
to expect you the first time if you didn't call him in the morning to let him know you were going to be over that day?
Because it was already discussed.
When was it discussed? Tell me.
It was discussed multiple times in the weeks following Christmas.
I understand that it was discussed multiple times in the weeks following Christmas, but in those multiple times following Christmas, did you pick a date? January 21, let's just pick December 26th. You said to him on January 21 of 2008, I'm going to come over and help you with the Christmas decorations. Is that how it worked?
No.
Yeah.
God,
You needed, if you had an arrangement,
it's amazing
there would have been an agreement, wouldn't there have been?
We
because
weren't that formal.
Well,
see,
so you, but
she's
you just told me that you.
she's always got the threat of a telephone bill, right? She's trying to be vague because she doesn't want anything to come up that's going to say, "Ha, look, you're a liar." But she makes herself look so silly with these foolish personality disorder games, right? And the poor, yeah, the poor court reporter, he is really, so he really gets into the conversation. It's one of the few times I've never really seen a court reporter react in a trial, but watch him because he does start reacting. He gets as tired of Jodi as as we are.
Talked about it though, right?
It was discussed multiple times. Yes.
Right. And so though all those multiple times that you discussed it, you agreed that it was going to be January 21, 2008 after you got off work from Mimi's. Is that the agreement or is that the discussion?
I don't think it was that specific at all.
So what was the discussion then?
Just whenever we got together to do it.
So then he wasn't expecting you like you said he was when you came over that day.
He was hoping I would come over to help him with those things.
Ma'am, you keep saying he was hoping. How do you know he was hoping if he didn't even know you were coming over?
Based on our discussions.
No, it's
in
based on your
discussions, you told him,
fantasy.
I want you to hope that I come over on the 21st?
I didn't tell him that.
Of course you didn't. The point is, you can't tell us anything about the circumstances of that day, can you?
It's because it was fantasy.
Well, you can't tell us about the time, right?
Not a precise hour and minute.
You
No.
can't tell us what you worked at Mimi's, right? What hours, right?
Not the precise hours.
You can't tell us what time you got over to his house, right?
Not the precise minute.
You can't tell us if there was even a telephone call that morning, right?
I don't remember if there were calls that morning.
Right. Can't tell us anything. But you can tell us that you walked in and then there was this issue and you went in to help him with the Christmas decorations, right?
Yes.
And after you helped him with the Christmas decorations, you left, right?
Yes.
Drove away, right?
Yes.
Came back, right?
Yes.
And according to you, that's when you saw Mr. Alexander engaged in this masturbatory activity, right?
Yes.
And according to you, there were multiple photographs, but you saw one of them in particular, correct?
Yes.
And you then left, right?
Yes.
And you left in your car, right?
Yes.
And you went home and started driving around, right?
Went home, threw up, cried, then drove around.
Sure, you did all these kinds of things.
So she controlled vomiting
In
from the
your car,
time
right?
that she saw it till she
Yeah,
got
I drove in my
home.
car.
What's that?
BS.
I didn't throw up in my car.
No, you drove off in your car, correct?
Yes.
I love that Juan is laughing
Well,
at her.
Isn't that problematic since you were driving Mr. Alexander's car?
Oopsie.
I wasn't driving his car yet. We were supposed to swap cars.
Well, he didn't have a car that day, right?
We were switching
Ma'am,
cars back
did
and
he
forth.
have a, my question
He
is,
did have a car.
isn't it true he did not have a car that day?
No, he had a car.
Well, ma'am, let's take a look at some of the text.
Here we go, Jodi. Look at her. She looks scared.
I'm gonna give you two sets, one with his responses and one without, all right?
Okay.
Take a look at exhibit 461, text messages between your telephone number and that of Mr. Alexander, correct?
Yes.
And the incoming means that that's your message coming in to him, correct? Ma'am,
Wait, say that again. I'm sorry. I was
do you
reading.
remember previously testifying that when incoming was on these text messages, that meant that that was you calling or that was you leaving the message?
That was me sending the message.
Right. And the outgoing is him sending it out, right?
Yes.
You also talked a little bit about the timing on there, right? The times that are designated,
Yes.
you indicated that, well, it was 7 hours off, right?
Yes.
That copy that I've given you has taken the time to write down the actual times minus 7 hours, right?
Yes.
Go ahead and review it to make sure that the times that are on there
Yes,
are
that's
correct.
I believe.
Well, we don't want you to believe. Take your time, subtract 7 from there and see if that's correct. Because it's important here, we don't want you to believe.
I'm pretty sure they're correct.
When you say pretty sure, it means you're not sure to me.
No, I said I'm pretty sure.
And it does not include his responses on there or his outgoing messages, does it?
Yeah, it looks like it's blocked out.
Right. Take a look at exhibit 462. Same thing, right? Except that this one includes his responses on there, right?
Yes.
Okay. The times are also written in there, correct?
Yes.
And to the best of your knowledge, those are the accurate times that are written in there. Those are the accurate times that that message was either outgoing or incoming, right?
That is right.
See, she's trying to second guess where he's going with all this.
They look like they match.
Okay.
461, Your Honor.
61 is admitted.
Take a look at exhibit 461. And let's talk about the times first. Do you see that, although it says 1:22:08 at 003850, someone has written 1:21:538 p.m. because it's a 7-hour time difference that you talked about previously on direct examination, right?
Yes,
And when we talked about, it's got your name on there, right?
that's right.
It's got your telephone number on there, right?
Right.
And then it has the time of January 21st at 5:38 p.m., right?
Yes.
And then it says, you say, I can't remember, am I coming in for you on Wednesday at 10:30? Isn't that what it says?
Yes.
Then you see the next one at 6:41 p.m., right? You claim that you have already left Mimi's Cafe in the early afternoon, right?
Yes.
And so,
No, I didn't say early. I said sometime in the afternoon.
No, you said early.
but you can't tell us the time, right?
That's right.
But at 6:41 p.m., you are talking about trading cars before FHE, right?
Yes,
FHE stands for Family Home Evening, right?
that's right.
And Family Home Evening starts at 7 o'clock in the evening, doesn't it?
I don't remember.
Well, you were practicing Mormon, weren't
Jesus,
you?
here we go again.
Sort of.
And you attended Family Home Evenings. You were telling us about that, right?
Yes, I did.
And you attended them more than once, right?
Yes, I did.
And of all of those times that you attended, didn't they start at 7 o'clock?
I don't remember. They were in the evening, but I don't remember the time.
Would they have started at 10 o'clock at night?
No,
Look
they're
how
not
frustrated he is.
How long? Isn't it true that they lasted about an hour, family home evenings?
Yes, roughly an hour.
And then the people that were there, the singles that were there, would get together and get involved in some sort of social activity, right?
Yes.
Bowling, that sort of thing, right?
My ward never went bowling.
Movies, something like that.
My ward never went to movies.
Going out to dinner.
It was usually at the church.
But it could also be at people's houses, right?
Yes.
And then at 7:19 p.m., you're sending him a text. Never mind, one of the stores I need to go to closes at 8 p.m. I'll just go tomorrow, right?
That's right.
That's evening now, right?
Yes.
You said that this incident involving the masturbatory conduct occurred in the afternoon, right?
It did.
So it would have happened before 7:19 p.m., right?
Yes.
And you were already gone. You were wherever, right?
Yes.
And you told us, though, that no, he kept calling you, and then you said you called him back, right?
Yes, I did.
And then you went out and got him something from, I think it was Starbucks or something, and you brought him something over. Do you remember saying that?
Not that day.
Well, then you went over to his house, though, right?
I did.
And you went over and then you had sex with him, right?
Yes.
What time did you go to his house?
Why did she lower her voice when she said that?
Well, if he's going to family home evening, he's not going to be around. If it starts, assume it starts at 7. He's not going to be around at 7 o'clock, is he?
Restate your question.
If, just for hypothetically speaking, man, if family home evening starts at 7 o'clock, he's not going to be home at 7 p.m., is he?
If he went, then he wouldn't be.
I'm not asking if he went. If it starts at 7 o'clock in the evening, he would not have been home then, right?
He went to FHE.
It wouldn't necessarily mean that because it doesn't mean that he went. But that night,
Now, I'm saying hypothetically. That means assume
okay.
that he went to family home evening. And if it started at 7, he wouldn't have been at his house, right?
That's right.
And if he has become involved in this masturbatory conduct, why are you worried about trading cars with him?
I think he wanted to trade the car.
Oh,
This is not good
Jodi!
writing that out there, is it?
I wanted to do it before FHE. He wanted to trade the car.
Well, why don't we take a look at his, which is 462. This is the one that includes his responses, right?
Yes.
So Juan did a really good job of turning the tables on her and kind of giving her a dose of her own medicine, right? He lets her confuse things and move things and get all discombobulated, and she thinks that she's in control. She thinks that she's gotten him off on this kind of mundane topic, and then he says, "But why are you asking about trading cars after you've just caught him masturbating to little kids' pictures?" And you could see it when she realized what he had done is brilliant. He's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant.
Take a look at it and see who's concerned about trading cars. It indicates the back and forth involving the car, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
I move for the admission of exhibit number 462.
462 is admitted.
Ma'am, do you know who Alice Laviolette is?
Yes.
She's somebody that is assisting you in this case, isn't it?
Yes.
Isn't it true that you told her that the masturbatory conduct involving Mr. Alexander took place while he was on the computer?
No, I never said that.
Isn't it true that you've heard a statement from her indicating that you told her that the masturbatory conduct took place while he was on the computer?
No, I've never heard her say that.
Ma'am, were you here at a hearing?
Objection, Your Honor.
And isn't it true that you heard Miss LaViolette indicate?
Oh
You
my
told
God.
her
Alice LaViolette
that
destroyed her
you saw
career
Mr.
with this
Alexander
case.
masturbating to images on a computer?
No, I heard you say that in the hearing.
Well, ma'am, do you remember that I played a snippet with her voice on it?
Yes, but I couldn't understand
Did,
it.
did you hear that snippet? Yes or no?
I heard it, but I didn't understand it.
I'm not asking you if you understood it. Isn't it true that you were here when that snippet was played?
Yes.
And that snippet involved whether or not she had ever told the prosecution that you told her that you saw Mr. Alexander masturbating to images on a computer.
That's right.
Let me go ahead and continue with the text messages. This is now exhibit 462. And it includes the outgoing, which is Mr. Alexander's text messages, right?
That's right.
And we were talking about exchanging cars before going to FHE, Family Home Evening, right?
Yes.
And ma'am, you did indicate something about whether or not you called them, or did you say you did or did not call him that morning?
I said I don't remember.
So it could be true that you did not call him at all that morning.
Objection, question.
Sustained.
So it is true that you do not know if you called him that morning. So, well, let me do this. It could be you did not call him that morning.
It could be because I don't remember.
And again, is this issue with your lack of memory because of the questions, the way they're being posed?
No.
Is it have to do with the volume of the person asking you the questions?
No, I think it's the length of time.
Is it yes or no? The volume.
And that would be no.
So at 7:20, you sent her or send him a text message. Never mind, one of the stores I need to go closes at 8. I'll just go tomorrow. So that was 1 minute later. It's the same message that you sent before, correct?
That's correct.
And then Mr. Alexander sends you a text message at 7:24 p.m., right?
Right?
And he says, I got a ride from some peeps in the ward now. You can just go get it. Let me know when you made the exchange. Isn't he telling you that he went to the family home evening there?
Yes.
So he did go to the family home evening, right?
I'm assuming.
Well, there's nothing else that's indicated here other than family home evening, right?
That's right.
And family home evening, from your experience, when you were going, how long does it last?
Usually about an hour. Depends on the event. Sometimes there are special events that go longer.
You ever
And
run
then there are
across
other
someone who
events that may
talks like this
Come along.
that
afterwards, right?
twists your words, even in situations that they're not like under threat? Run.
To your
Run.
knowledge, man.
Because when you need them to be
Family home
honest,
meetings,
they will
begin
break a
at the
leg
hour
not to
or their
be.
chances, sometimes, even though you may
Always
not,
hiding a
that they
secret.
would go on longer than that.
Objection calls for speculation is what happened on January 21st.
Overruled, that was not the question.
I guess that's always a chance.
Well, I'm asking from your knowledge when you were going.
Typically, we all dispersed. It was a Monday night. We didn't hang out too late.
Okay. Then at 7:25, you send him a text message that appears to be in response to that one, right? Because it's 1 minute later, right?
Yes.
And you say, I'm almost asleep. We'll see, right?
Right.
And what you're talking about is exchanging the car, right?
Yes.
The big concern here is exchanging the car, right?
Yes.
Doesn't have anything to do with what you claim you saw, right?
We're talking about the car in this text message.
Right. It doesn't, and the point here is that you're talking about very pedestrian issues, such as exchanging a car. You're not talking about, Travis, I saw you masturbating or anything like that, right?
It wasn't a pedestrian issue with Travis.
Pardon?
The car was not a pedestrian issue with Travis.
Well, So you're equating this issue with the car the same as him masturbating to images as kids. Is that what you're saying?
Not by a long shot. No, that's not what I'm saying.
Then he's talking about you obviously don't need it that bad. I got a ride so you could go get the car. Now you're going to sleep? That's what he tells you, right?
Yes.
He's made or tried to make arrangements for you to pick up your car, right?
I don't remember which car I was driving.
God
He
almighty.
didn't have a car because he got a ride with somebody else, right?
That's not why he got a ride.
Well, when he's
She's
riding with
so
somebody else,
ridiculous.
his car's not with him, right?
That's right.
And so he's without a car at family home evening or wherever it is that he went, right?
Yes.
You have a car, right?
Yes.
His car, right?
I don't remember which car I was driving.
Well, it wouldn't have been his car because you wouldn't have needed to exchange his car for his car, right?
It would have been mine or his.
Right. So you're driving your car, right?
Objection. Ask and answer.
I've already said that I don't remember which car I'm driving.
There, you indicated previously that after this happened, you went home and he kept trying to call you over and over, right?
I had voicemails from him or missed calls.
It means he kept trying to call you over and over again. When you left voicemails or whatever, he kept trying to call you, right?
Yeah, he did.
And you didn't respond to those calls, right?
Not immediately that I remember.
Well-
I was in the visitation center, the visitor
Excuse me?
center, so I had my phone volume off.
You were what?
I was at the visitor center,
What visitor center are you talking about?
the one next to the Mesa Temple.
And is that where you went after this incident happened?
That's where I ended up after driving.
Is this where you were almost asleep?
No, this was after the fact.
So now you're back at home.
Yes.
Right? And in between then and, well, in between what you say you saw and when you were home, that's when you have all these calls, right?
From the time I ran out of his house, he called.
From the time you ran out of his house till what time at night are these calls coming in?
Till I called him back.
When? What time?
As soon as I left the visitor center, I called him.
Right? So you're sure that there's a bunch of calls that he made to you, and then they sort of piled up, whether they're voice messages or missed calls, and then you returned his call, right?
That's how I remember it, yes.
Okay. Actually, that's not the way it really went on that day. Isn't it true, ma'am, that there were actually 5 calls that day between you and him, where he called you 5 times and you called him back 5 times? Did you know that?
That there were many more than 5. There may be 5 from his cell phone.
I'm asking cell phone to cell phone, and you're saying that at that time you only had your cell phone, right?
I only had my cell phone
Right,
at the visitors.
right. And he left you 5 calls, or he left you calls, right?
Yes.
And actually, there were only 5 calls from him all day long to you on the 21st. Isn't that true?
That's not true.
Isn't it true there was only 5 return calls from you on that day?
That might be true.
And in fact, when you say that he was calling you all the time, actually didn't go this way that you called him at 3:53 in the evening or the afternoon, didn't you?
That sounds accurate.
And then you called him again at 4:09 in the evening, didn't you?
That sounds accurate.
And he returned.
Isn't that amazing that she would agree to times after she's argued this for an hour or more?
And then you called him back at 4:53, right?
It's amazing.
That sounds accurate.
Well, I thought you said that there was this issue that you were not returning his call. It looks like you're returning his call and he's calling you back.
Well, that's probably a cell phone.
Well, what difference does it make if it's a cell phone or not? Isn't that a telephone call?
Yeah, but he has a landline that he called me on frequently.
Right, but I'm talking about on that day, the calls that were made. What was his landline number, man?
I don't have it memorized because it was just in my phone as Travis Alexander.
So you called him at 4:53, isn't it true, PM, and he returned your call then at 4:54 PM. Do you remember that?
I don't recall that specific, but
Isn't it true he then called you back at 5:11 PM? Remember that?
not specifically.
How about him calling you back at 5:20?
Wow.
I don't remember specifically.
Okay, so we get the point on the times, right?
I just know he,
So let's
Fell asleep.
move forward a little bit here.
Phone call woke me up, right?
what date is that?
21st, man.
That's right. Okay.
I fell asleep and a phone call woke me up. I thought you said you were at the LDS Center off of Dobson and Southern.
Not by this time.
I thought you were asleep.
I went home and crashed. I'd been crying and I had a migraine.
So when did you go to sleep? Give us a time.
I don't have a time that I fell asleep. I went to sleep after I left the visitor center.
Well, when did you have time to sleep if you're calling him back and he's calling you? And then right after that, you begin texting back and forth.
And when
is
was
it that
she
you find your time to
crying?
sleep?
Well, I didn't sleep for a long period of time. I just dozed off.
When was she crying and vomiting?
Well, you do say at 7:25 PM that you're almost asleep. We'll see about this car transfer thing, right?
Right.
And then you put the Z's on there that indicates you're going to sleep, right?
I was very tired, yes.
And so you went to sleep. You say you went to sleep, right?
I was laying there very tired and I think I fell asleep.
Well, then you say at 7:29, 4 minutes later, I fell asleep and a phone call woke me up. That's when I sent you a text. That's what you say, right?
Yeah.
Well, when is it that you're sleeping? What's waking you up between those 4 minutes? What's going
I don't
on?
think I'm sleeping right then. I don't know. I fell asleep. He wanted me to get the car.
God, she's such a liar.
He's at family home evening already, and he doesn't care because he's already at family home evening, isn't he?
He was a little upset because he got a ride because he thought I was going to go get it.
But it didn't happen, did it?
No.
And the big point going on here is not talking about anything that may have happened. You're not saying you're upset about anything. You're just talking about this car being exchanged, right?
We're talking specifically about the car exchange in the text message.
And you don't say, I'm upset, we need to talk, or anything like that, do you?
No.
You say you have a really bad headache, that you can barely move, right?
Yes.
And that's at 7:36, right?
Yes.
And then there's a gap of approximately 2 hours or an hour and 45 minutes, which could be with an activity with family home evening, right?
Yes.
And he says, all right, I'll get it tomorrow then, right?
He says for me to get it tomorrow.
All right, get it tomorrow then, right?
Yes.
In other words, make the whatever exchange of cars that's going to happen, let's just do it tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Or have you do it tomorrow, right?
Right, whichever.
Which indicates you aren't going to get together that night, are you?
At the moment, yes.
Not at the moment. It says, do it tomorrow. Isn't that what it says?
When that text was sent, yes.
Okay, but then you want to talk to him, right?
Yes.
And that's at 9:16 PM. You say, can you talk right now? And he says, no, not right now, right?
Yes.
Presumably, if he went to family home evening, I'm not saying that he did, that's probably what he's doing, if he did go, right?
If he did go.
If he
Maybe.
did go, right?
If family home evening is still going on at that hour.
And then, but previously, ma'am, you told us that he was the one that wanted to talk to you, right? Didn't you tell us that? That he kept calling until you relented, and then you went over, right?
He did want to talk to me, yes.
Right. But it looks here that, like, you want to talk to him, doesn't it?
I do now, yes.
And then you're still not together at 11:33, and you sent him a message, how long, right?
That's right.
How long is he going to be out, is what you're asking him, aren't you?
No, how long till he was ready to talk?
Well, that's part of given what we've seen about this relationship, isn't that part of your jealousy because you want to know what's going on with him that night?
Objection on that.
Sustained.
Ma'am, how long, that's you saying, how long before we can talk, right? Isn't that what it means?
Yes.
And then he says to you, and the times aren't there, but he does, and by that I mean they weren't written in. It says, did you use my phone this morning without asking, right?
Yes.
So if you got together with him, it was after 11:33, after he got done doing whatever he was doing, right?
What was that question?
If you got together that evening, it was after he got done with whatever he was doing.
That's right.
And so it doesn't seem like he's in a hurry to talk to you, does it?
I don't know.
It doesn't
Wow,
seem like he's all this,
it's so,
you know, like
she's
this
amazing.
upset that you portrayed him, that he really wanted to talk to you about this issue that you say that you saw him engaged in, right?
Objection causes speculation.
Sustained.
There are gaps here where he's doing whatever he's doing and you're doing the asking how long, right?
That's right.
He then asks you whether or not you used his phone in the morning without asking, right?
Yes.
And you tell him that you did, right?
Yes.
And you ask why, and he says nothing, right?
Yes.
There's an issue about the deposit. And in fact, you're asking him if he made the deposit, right?
Yes.
And he told you that he did, right?
Yes.
Is he giving you money there?
What's the date?
Pardon?
What was the date on that one?
The 22nd.
I don't know.
I don't remember what the
Well,
deposit was
you do
for.
say your text message does say, did you make the deposit?
Yes.
And he said yes. And then you said what?
Thank you. I'll make it up to you soon.
It looks like he lent you money there, doesn't it?
Yes.
Any idea how much money he lent you?
He lent me money in small increments. I don't remember.
And he would do it if you needed it, right?
If he could, he would. Yes.
And if you needed it, right?
Yes.
Now, the next day, that same day at 3:36 in the afternoon, you say to him, I'm going to need a ride. I'm off at 4 p.m. Text me. Still the issue with the car, right?
Yes.
Where's your car?
Probably parked at his house.
How'd you get to work?
Sometimes he drove me and sometimes I carpooled with a coworker.
So what happened on this particular day?
I don't remember.
What time did you get to work?
I don't remember. I
Please.
usually worked in the morning, but sometimes I worked evenings also.
So in this day, you're going to get off at 4 o'clock, right?
Well, in theory, if business permits.
But that's what it says there, right?
Yes.
And this is at 3:36. You want him to pick you up, right?
Yes.
How long was your shift usually? 4, 6, 8 hours?
Depending on the flow of business, typically it was 4 to 6 hours.
All right. And then at 4:04, you send him another text message and you say, scratch that. They're keeping me here till 5 p.m. Can you pick me up then? The lunch offer from my voicemail still stands. What are you talking about?
For him to pick me up.
Pardon?
For him to pick me up after work.
No, I'm asking about the lunch offer. I'm not asking about him picking you up.
I felt really bad for him and everything that happened. So I was just
What?
trying to make him feel better because
But I thought she was all
I
freaked.
I'd want to jump off a bridge at this point.
Well, I thought he was all
What
freaked
about the
out.
lunch offer? What are you talking about?
That's what it was. I offered to get him lunch.
Well, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon though.
And what about the whole pedophilia
Well,
thing?
not for Travis.
And then he says, sure, I'm almost off. Yay. Are you eating? If so, just sit in the counter, right?
Right.
Throughout this whole text message between you and him, there's no discussion about anything that may have happened on the 21st, is there?
Not in text messages. Definitely not.
The answer is no, right?
No.
And in terms of the phone calls that you claim that were being made, there wasn't this barrage of phone calls from him that you didn't respond to. Actually, it was more give and take, wasn't it?
He left a barrage of phone calls at one period of time, yes.
Pardon?
He did. He left a barrage of phone calls.
Well, then let's just take a look at it.
All right, this is almost over, y'all.
We'll see you back here at 3:25. Please remember the admonition. You are excused.
Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God it's over, y'all. Okay. So, I told y'all that there's a lot to learn from watching her cross-examination. There's a lot to learn about people who are highly manipulative, or what a lot of people want to call gaslighting, right? So they do come up with they will come up with like their own particular word games that they like. Now, those that are not very intelligent or very bright, they'll just invent stories and then say you're a liar, right? They'll make up a story about you, and then when you say that is not true, then they say, oh my God, you're such a liar. That's a fairly simplistic, not very imaginative person. But the game that Jodi was playing, that was more of a battle of wits from her perspective. She was enjoying that feeling of I'm your equal one. I may not have a high school diploma, but I'm smarter than you. So there's that grandiosity that we associate with narcissist, right? One of the things that we'll see with narcissist is, let's say if they go, let me think of an example. Let's say a narcissist comes in to a doctor's office for something. They don't want to seem uninformed or simple to the physician. And so they'll use a lot of medical linguistics. They'll talk about their ox rate, or BP is, 180 over 200. They'll try to sound, sir, oh, doctor, could you look at my subdural hematoma, right? So they pick up the linguistics that are specific toward the profession, and they try to sound like they've got medical training. In fact, a lot of them will tell you that they have medical training. A lot of them will say, come in and say, oh, well, you don't have to explain that to me. I'm a psychologist too. I just chose not to get a license. Or I almost graduated, but then I decided to do something else. So it's really a common thing for them to do. Now, she didn't exactly say I'm an attorney, but at one point she did make her own objection, which was kind of amusing, right? So it is very sad. And Juan got her, and Juan proved time and time again throughout this incredible, month of testimony. He proved time and time again that even though she was intelligent, she wasn't even half his match. Why? Because he has the training and the experience of real accomplishment, as opposed to someone who just likes to say that they're, educated or whatnot. All right. Okay. Let me say hello to everybody, and thank y'all for being here. It was fun tonight. I know, Christola. I pulled that one out of my hat. Okay. Yeah, DEAD, Kathy. That's right. That's the acronym, right? Okay. Cinnamon, thank you. You're awesome. I can't believe you stayed this long. I am doing another, actually I've got 3 more pieces on Kelly Cochran. So I want to finish. I may do maybe I'll do Kelly Cochran next, because here's why. Remember I told y'all I showed the Kelly Cochran, we did the Kelly Cochran video. Then I told you I wanted to go back to Jodi Arias. I wanted to show y'all Jodi Arias. Why? Because they're both the same animal, right? They're the same exact animal, but you can see how they do the same types of things, but it's their own, they put their own little spin on it. And so now that we've had now 2 videos in a row with Jodi Arias, we've spent a lot of time talking about what her tactics are, what her tools are, and how she likes to try to control the conversation. Kelly Cochran, she played word games, right? She speaks in riddles, where Jodi is oppositional, never will agree on anything. Kelly Cochran speaks in riddles, and she smiles with this all-knowing smile, and she uses seduction. Even with handcuffs on, she's trying to be seductive. So maybe that's what we'll do, Cinnamon. Maybe the next video we'll go back to Kelly Cochran, and then we'll finish with the third part of the prosecution, the cross-examination with Jodi. What was her sentence? Life with no parole, Carol. She was actually she was up for the death penalty, and the jury just couldn't come to a decision on putting her to death. Although I'm sure, I don't know why, because she shot Travis Alexander in the head, she stabbed him 27 times, and then she nearly decapitated him when she cut his throat. So I don't know why you would have any hesitation about death for her, but and here's the bad part of it, right? She is she's a chameleon, and she's like a reptile. She adapts to any environment. If it gets too cold and uncomfortable, she'll just sleep until it warms up a little. So a lot of people like Barry, let's say Barry Morphew for an example. Barry Morphew gets life without parole. That man is going to live in misery the rest of his days. Every second of every day, he will be in pain. Okay. But someone like her, she's not going to be in misery. She is going to manipulate and control in any setting that she goes into. And in fact, that's exactly what she's done. She won a singing contest at Christmas. She sang a Christmas song and won. And all of the inmates love Jodi. And Jodi flirts with the prison guards, who then bring things to her like needles and ink so that she can tattoo her art onto inmates' bodies, and they pay her money. That's what her life is like right now. She is the tattoo artist at the prison where she's housed. So she is going to be happy wherever she goes. She's had numerous female lovers. She's going to adapt wherever she is. So Barry has aged an enormous amount. Absolutely, Carol. The man looks bad. Yeah. And that's true. Jodi will never have any children. Yeah. Okay. Alice hypnotized them. Yeah. Unfortunately, Alice was way out of her field. She was way, way, way outclassed by the psychologist. And when it all came when it all was laid out on the table, I don't even know why they chose Alice. Her training, her experience, she was no match for that psychologist coming out of Arizona State. She was no match. She didn't know about testing. She didn't know about she had not been trained on the nuances of testifying to defend your statistics, right? She just didn't. And the net effect between De Mattia and Juan Martinez against Alice LaViolette, not only did they destroy her career and reputation, but they destroyed the career of their psychologist. It was bad. It was really bad. But I will tell you this. Well, no, I don't want to get into that. But anyway, yes, Jodi is living her best life. She has a girlfriend, and she's having sex with the guards and getting anything that she likes and getting candy bars and being allowed to do tattoos. And that's how she's going to be. Remember, Jules, she spoke to the jury about being a domestic violence survivor. Her t-shirts she was going to sell her t-shirts, right? Yep. She was going to start a recycling program in the prison. That's how she would be an asset to the prison. Yeah. Yeah, I remember. Nermi was mortified. Mortified. She did look foolish blonde. As foolish. Yeah. Hey, Snow Bunny, how are you? It is very interesting, Karen. I'm glad that y'all are enjoying watching them. I didn't know, when I was thinking about doing this, I thought, will they really even watch it? Like, will they really even be interested? But when when you take someone like this, they've been found guilty. The psychologists have testified. They've talked about what her diagnoses are, then that opens the door for someone like me to come in and point things out and show it. I would never do that unless had the psychologist not talked about her diagnostics, then I wouldn't have gone as far as I have with this. But because they identified it, put it out on the table, she's in prison, no chance of parole, all that, then it was okay for me to talk about it. So it gives you a good opportunity. You hear all this talk about personality disorders and what they look like, but to be able to actually see one as they're doing the things that you've learned about, it really increases, the understanding of what it looks like. And that lets you know why it's so frustrating that everybody wants to call, everybody else a narcissist. No. People that have a true personality disorder, they really, really, really are different. Like, they really stand out as being much different than most of the people you know. Okay, people, I guess it's time for bed, right? All right. It was a long Monday. Okay. Thank y'all so much for spending time with me. I appreciate it. Cinnamon, thank you. Really, again, you're way too generous, but I'm deeply appreciative. Next go around, which is going to likely be, it won't be tomorrow, it'll be Wednesday. Next go around will definitely be Kelly Cochran. All right. And Barry Morphew will be back in court tomorrow morning. I've already given you the warning about them throwing out any kind of evidence, because the prosecution played games and would not give the defense the discovery they were entitled to. If they throw out much, The judge may come back and say, we don't have enough to hold him, and they may dissolve the charges. So keep your fingers crossed tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a big day. All right. I think I'll cry. All right. Probably blonde in a PhD program or a PsyD. They probably did. In my, let's see, let me remember. In my PhD program, we did, let me think a minute. Who all did we do in my program? We did Janis Joplin, Cinderella, Manson, Charles Manson. So it's kind of fun. And we had a great time diagnosing each other and all of our family members. And that was lots of fun. And it was also really eye-opening to recognize, you know, people have a lot of these features, but that does not equate to a true disorder. Remember, a disorder has got to interfere with effective functioning over multiple domains of living. I mean, you have to be significantly impacted by your behaviors. So, and it's a long established pattern of behavior, you know, but it is fun to act goofy and silly, and you know. I'm always interested about people who just take things so seriously. And some of that could be, you know, the way that their brain processes information. Or they could just be in hateful, right? All right. Okay, peeps, I got to go to bed. Tomorrow is a very early morning for me. So, thank you, Cinnamon. You're a very good friend. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And let's see. I've got one other person. Let's see. Oh, we had a long live tonight, didn't we? Trying to get to the top here. You guys were doing a great deal of chatting. There are many comments here. I thought I saw it. Where'd it go? And thank you, Banu Hillman. Thank you for the super sticker. Thank you. You guys are awesome. All right, peeps. I'll talk to you Wednesday. Y'all have a great week. Or if they let Barry, you know, go, you'll see me tomorrow night crying into my beer. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.